Las Vegas 2026. A hypothetical question that has haunted martial arts forums, barrooms, and gyms for decades. Bruce Lee, the 135-pound philosopher who revolutionized martial arts cinema against a modern UFC fighter. Same weight class, same rules. Who wins? The question seems simple. The answer is anything, but to understand the truth, we need to look at what Bruce Lee actually was. Not the myth, not the legend, the reality. 1967, Oakland, California, a small coon above a grocery store. Bruce Lee is teaching a class of 12 students. Among them is a young judoka named Hayward Nishioka, Olympic alternate, legitimate grappler. After class, Nishioka asks Lee about ground fighting. What happens if someone takes you down? Lee's answer is honest, surprising. Then I'm in trouble. Wing Chun doesn't have ground techniques. I need to learn. This is the Bruce Lee most people don't know, the one who admitted limitations, who actively sought to fix them. Over the next 2 years, Lee trains with wrestlers, judo practitioners. He studies Olympic footage, analyzes pins and escapes. He doesn't become a world-class grappler, but he understands the principle, learns enough to survive. More importantly, he learns to prevent takedowns, to maintain distance, to stay on his feet where his tools work. Fast forward to 1970. Lee is training with Chuck Norris. Norris holds 6 World Karate Championships. He's not a movie star yet. He's a legitimate tournament fighter. They spar regularly, hard contact, real speed. Norris describes these sessions decades later. Bruce was the fastest human I've ever encountered. His hands were unbelievable, but he weighed 135 pounds. When I got my hands on him, the weight difference mattered. He knew it. That's why he focused so much on not letting me grab him. This is crucial. Lee understood his physical limitations. He built his entire fighting philosophy around compensating for them. Speed over power, timing over strength, economy of motion over flashy technique. He wasn't trying to be the strongest. He was trying to be ungrappleable, unhittable, efficient. Now consider a modern UFC fighter. Same weight class, 135 pounds, bantamweight division. Let's use someone like Aljamain Sterling, former champion, elite grappler, high-level striking, professional athlete who trains 8 hours daily with world-class coaches, nutritionists, sports scientists, access to every advantage modern sports science provides. How does this fight play out? Round 1 begins. Lee and Sterling face each other. Lee takes his signature stance, weight on the back foot, lead hand extended, side on profile, minimal target. Sterling circles, orthodox stance, hands high, looking for angle. He studied footage, knows Lee's tendency. Lee throws a straight lead. His signature weapon, incredibly fast. Sterling slips it, barely. The speed surprises him even though he expected it. Sterling counters with a low kick, targets Lee's lead leg. Lee checks it. The impact echoes, both men feel it. Sterling shoots, double leg takedown, explosive, committed. This is where the fight changes. Lee sprawls, gets his hips back, pushes Sterling's head down. The technique is sound, but Sterling is a Division I wrestler. He's hit this position 10,000 times. He adjusts, changes levels, gets deeper. Lee is fighting to stay up. His base is good. His understanding is there, but Sterling has 70 pounds of pressure driving forward. Physics matters. They hit the cage. Lee uses it for support, keeps his hips back. Sterling is working, looking for the finish. Lee strikes the back of Sterling's neck. Short elbows, not full power, but enough to make Sterling reconsider. Sterling backs out, resets. Both men breathing harder now. 30 seconds of grappling exchanges burns more energy than 2 minutes of striking. Lee doesn't wait, he attacks. Combination, jab, cross, low kick. Sterling blocks most of it, but the speed is a problem. Lee's hands are faster than anyone Sterling has fought. The angles are different too. Lee fights from a fencing stance. Long and narrow, it disrupts Sterling's distance management. He's used to square stances. Predictable rhythms, Lee is neither. Sterling adjusts, starts timing Lee's straight leads, ducks under one, secures a body lock. This is bad for Lee, really bad. Sterling lifts, dumps Lee on his back, hard. Lee's technical skill hits a wall. He knows escapes theoretically, has drilled them in training, but Sterling has finished fights from this position, has thousands of hours of mat time. Lee is playing catch-up. Sterling moves to mount. Lee tries to buck, to create space. Sterling is heavy, patient, he's not rushing. Lee attempts a trap and roll, basic jiu-jitsu escape. Sterling defends easily, posts his hand, maintains base. Lee is running out of options. Sterling starts striking. Ground and pound, short elbows. Lee covers up, protects his head, but he's taking damage, accumulating. The referee stands them up after 90 seconds of control. Lee gets to his feet. His eye is swelling, his breathing is labored, but he's not discouraged, not mentally broken. He resets. This time he's more cautious, maintains longer distance, uses more footwork. He's learned, adapted, mid-fight. Lee throws a side kick, targets Sterling's knee. The kick is vicious, precise. Sterling barely moves his leg in time. If that had landed clean, the fight might be over. Lee follows with hand traps, Wing Chun techniques. He catches Sterling's jab, traps the hand, hits Sterling with 3 rapid punches to the body. Sterling clinches, pulls Lee into the cage. They're tied up. Lee is working short elbows and knees. Sterling is controlling posture, looking for another takedown. Sterling gets it. This time Lee's defense is better. He fights the hands, stays heavy on his hips, but Sterling switches to a single leg, elevates Lee's leg. Lee is hopping, struggling. Sterling trips him. They're on the ground again. Second round of grappling. Lee is learning. His escapes are better. He creates space, gets to half guard, but Sterling passes, gets to side control. Lee is stuck again. Here's the truth. In a 5-round fight, Sterling probably wins, not because he's more skilled overall, but because his skill set is more complete for this specific context. Modern MMA rules favor well-rounded fighters. Lee was well-rounded for 1970, but MMA has evolved. The level of grappling is exponentially higher. The understanding of ground positions is deeper. Sterling has tools Lee never fully developed. But change the context and the answer changes. Street fight, no rules, no rounds. Lee's chances improve dramatically. His philosophy was built for chaos, for asymmetric violence, for ending encounters in seconds, not for sport competition with safety rules. Lee trained to break joints, strike throats, attack eyes. His mentality was survival, not points, not decisions, finish or be finished. There's another factor, prime. Lee died at 32 in phenomenal condition, but he was also injured, chronic back problems, overtraining symptoms. The Lee from 1967, age 27, fully healthy, different conversation. That Lee was experimenting, evolving daily, learning from every available source. If you gave that Lee 5 years to specifically prepare for MMA rules, to train takedown defense with elite wrestlers, to drill submissions with high-level grapplers, he'd be terrifying because Lee's gift wasn't physical, it was intellectual. He could learn any system, break it down, integrate what worked. Consider what Lee accomplished in his era. He studied films of Muhammad Ali, integrated footwork that wouldn't become common in martial arts for 30 more years. He used high guards and low guards situationally, understood range management at a level that presaged modern MMA striking. He incorporated Western boxing, fencing, wrestling concepts. He was doing mixed martial arts before the term existed. Joe Rogan, UFC commentator and martial artist, addresses this question frequently. Bruce Lee was a pioneer. He was figuring out MMA principles in the 1960s. That's insane, but asking if he'd beat a modern UFC fighter is like asking if a Model T could beat a Tesla. The Model T was revolutionary for its time, but technology evolved, training evolved, the sport evolved. That doesn't diminish what Lee accomplished. It contextualizes it. Here's a different question. Could modern MMA exist without Bruce Lee? Probably not, at least not in its current form. Lee popularized the idea that style doesn't matter, that effectiveness matters, that rigid adherence to tradition limits growth. The UFC was founded on that principle. Pit different styles against each other, see what actually works. That's pure Lee philosophy. Dana White, UFC president, acknowledged this. Bruce Lee basically wrote the blueprint for MMA. He said, "Take what's useful, discard what's useless." That's what every successful MMA fighter does. They're not pure strikers or pure grapplers. They're mixed, adaptable. That comes from Lee. So who wins? In a pure skills comparison under modern MMA rules, the modern fighter wins. The grappling gap is too large, the ground game too developed, but in terms of impact on martial arts, philosophy, innovation, Lee wins by knockout. He changed how the world thinks about fighting, made millions of people question their assumptions, forced traditional martial arts to evolve or become obsolete. There's a final consideration. Lee at 135 pounds in his prime with modern training methods, nutrition, and coaching give him the same advantages Sterling has. Now it's a real fight. Lee's natural attributes, speed, timing, kinesthetic awareness were off the charts. His work ethic was legendary. His ability to learn and adapt was unmatched. Add modern sports science to that foundation, he'd be a problem for anyone. But we don't get that version. We get historical Lee. The one who trained 6 hours daily with 1960s knowledge, who ate whatever he thought was healthy, who overtrained because recovery science didn't exist yet. That Lee loses to modern Sterling, probably by decision, maybe by submission, not because he wasn't skilled, but because he was fighting in the wrong era. The question isn't really about who wins a fight, it's about what we value. Do we value context and evolution, or raw comparison stripped of nuance? Lee never claimed to be unbeatable. He claimed to be constantly improving, constantly